welcome to Rob from the Internet Talks About Beer, a show where we discuss different styles of beer, beer history, beer flavor profiles. We give shout outs to breweries we think make exceptional beer, and we talk about whatever else comes to mind during the course of the conversation. I'm Rob, and if you appreciate this style of entertainment that I'm putting out there, a little bit of education, a little bit of humor, a little bit of bullshit, I'd appreciate if you'd like the video, maybe subscribe to the channel, maybe tell your friends because, we've all got friends that like beer and, who doesn't want to hear more stuff about beer? All right. Without further ado, let's get started. Joining me today are two folks. One of them I know from the internet. One of them is a complete and random stranger to me.
Nice.
So if you would, fellas, tell me a little bit about yourselves, how you got into craft beer, and what you do when you're not talking or drinking craft beer. We'll start with you, Scott.
My name is Scott. I'm a home brewer just outside of Buffalo, New York. I have a podcast called WNY Brews, which is about beer and brewing in Western New York, the Buffalo region, not New York City, Western New York State. So go Bills. I'm a music teacher during the day. I teach elementary school. And then at night, generally when I put the kids to sleep, I open up some craft beer, which I got into by through music. So the local place where we would play out every twice a month, me, my sister, and a couple of other friends, we would play out at this place, Nietzsche's, Brian. It's a really it has a lot of character, Nietzsche's. Okay. It has a lot of smells. It has a lot of nostalgia. It's a great music place, but they would give the musicians free Rolling Rock. Like musicians, as much Rolling Rock as you could drink.
That's because there's not a whole lot of alcohol in Rolling Rock.
Yep, and there's not as much Rolling Rock as I could drink. Was actually very little. So as we started going to other places, I would start checking out other beers. Like, oh, what do you got? And there was another place where we would play out with the band, and they had Magic Hat number 9 on, and it was just different enough to be like, all right, that's what I want from now on. And then as other friends started realizing, hey, Scott's into the craft beer, like, hey, you should try this one, you should try this. I had some mentors guide me through the craft beer process, probably in the mid 2000s, the mid aughts.
Gotcha.
Yep. That's my story and how I came to it.
All right. What about you, Brian?
My name is Brian Campbell. I co-founder, brand manager. I run the Buffalo Beer League, the day-to-day operations. That's what you could say. Run all of our social media, content, all of our writing. I'm a local beer writer. I write for a website called Step Out Buffalo, in addition to BuffaloBeerLeague.com. And I also write for the Buffalo News. I write beer features for the Buffalo News. I got into craft beer, man. The years escape me, but we launched the Buffalo Beer League in 2010, and before we launched officially, my buddy Scott, not this Scott, my other friend Scott McMillan, who I launched the Buffalo Beer League with, we used to drink Killian's. Shout out to Rolling Rock, because we did drink our weight in Rolling Rock when we were growing up. But we used to drink Killian's and Guinness, and then everything that we could get our hands on from Sam Adams. In the Western New York region in 2008, as Scott can attest, 2008, 2009, there wasn't a lot of craft options outside of Flying Bison, Pearl Street Brewery, Buffalo Brew Pub, a few places. So we started with Scott and I would get different beer we could get our hands on every week, and we had a grade book. We wrote down the beer. We would all we would write grades and reviews, and then that kind of graduated to BuffaloBeerLeague.com, where I write about beer. We have a lot of friends in the Buffalo beer scene, and yeah, it's just grown from there. We do events, volunteer staffing, we cover beer events, and so on and so forth, which I'm sure we'll get more into. But that's kind of my journey into craft beer.
So what I'm hearing is you don't do a whole lot outside of beer.
Well, so I forgot about that part of the question. My apologies. I work for when I'm not working or doing the many facets of beer coverage that I do. I write about music. I have a music website and I also work for a local news company. I work on their digital team.
Oh, nice. Very nice. Excellent. Well, today we are going to be talking about one of my favorite styles of beer, one that is very divisive. People either love it or hate it. I've never met anybody who's just like, yeah, I could take it or I could leave it. We are talking about Rauchbier. It's a German style. It is used smoke kilned malts. I will be having one from a local-ish Toronto brewery from Muddy York. I am having Jailfire, which is their rock beer, which is their smoked lager. It's a fantastic beer. I think it comes in at like 6%. It's nice. It's light. It's not overly smoky. Um, when I get it poured into my glass here, if I can pour without having a shit ton of head on it. Man, last night I was recording an episode on Belgians, and I did a
Ooh,
terrible
nice.
pour, and I had like 3 inches of head and like an inch and a half of beer in my tulip glass, and I had to wait like 5 minutes for it to go down.
And you're
So
a video podcast, so people saw that.
yeah.
Yes.
So as you can see, it's this one is it's a nice golden color. It's
Yeah, it is.
medium carbonation on this one. Not a whole lot of bubbles moving up through the glass, but you can see that there are bubbles suspended in the beer, which is fantastic thing about this beer. It's not actually a hazy beer. It's just there's bubbles hanging out in the middle of the beer still, and they will eventually make their way up top. Um, it's got a very light smoke aroma on the nose, not like the one that you're having, Scott. That one's very smoky on the nose.
Oh, yeah, it
Um,
is.
this one is very light on the nose, but you get that nice because it's a lager. You get that nice floral aroma that you get from your typical lagered beers. You know, the nice aromatics that come off of it. So it's a good combination. It's kind of like standing out in the woods and there's a campfire somewhere. You got the smell of flowers and stuff, and you got the smell of the campfire, and then you got a beer in your hand. How cool is
Nice.
that?
Man, way to paint a beautiful picture.
Tell us about yours, Scott.
Mine smells like you just doused the campfire and you're standing over the smoke and embers.
Yep.
It is super smoky. It is I'm going to do my best to pronounce the Schlenkerla
Yeah.
Kerla from Bamberg, Germany. I found this at our local beer place before I was sure if I could get something local. And it's their Urbach version. It's 6.5%. I didn't notice that until you said how yours was. But it is super smoky. Kind of has that bacony flavor to it that you sometimes get out of a rock beer.
Yep. Yeah. And you know, like we were talking before we started recording, they also have a smoked Märzen, and the Märzen actually has an even smokier profile, in my opinion, than that one does. And I think that's just probably because of the style of the beer. It allows more of that smoke flavor to be and aroma to be prominent. Look at that.
Yeah,
He's got his own.
See that color?
And he's got his own glass there with his own stuff on there.
Yeah.
West New York Brews.
Yeah, right. Got to represent. Here's
Scott,
my mic flag.
Scott, I didn't even think about it. I could have busted out my Buffalo Beer League glass, but I didn't even think about it.
Well,
I unlike you guys, am not using one of my own glasses. I'm using one from one of my favorite breweries. This is Lake of the Woods Brewing, the northernmost brewery in Ontario. They're in
all right.
They're in Kenora.
I've had some of their beer.
Yeah, they also have a location in Minnesota, like directly across the lake from their Canadian brewery. They have an American one, and then they have another one. I think it's in Winnipeg. I think they have a third location. But
nice.
these guys are fantastic. They were nice enough to send me a glass when I had them on the show, and I love this glass because on the back of it, you're probably not going to be able to see it too well. Well, you can see the thumb there, but just below that thumb is a panic line. So when you get to a certain level on the glass, you hit the panic line. It's time to get another beer.
It's a good feature.
Yeah, I like that.
So I still have smoke going on right now.
You're going to have smoke going on for the entire episode here.
Yep.
Scott, you could have picked something worse. I mean, those are probably my favorite smoke beers in the entire world. Those Schlenkerlas.
Yeah.
That I've drank every one I could get my hands on locally, and those
Uh-huh.
are definitely my favorite. The smoked Marzen, which you had mentioned, Rob, which I absolutely love. That beer blew me away.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny. I was talking with somebody. Oh, it was earlier. Well, I guess it was later last year. It was like October, November. You know, working from home and never really leaving the house. All the days kind of blend together.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
but we were talking about it, and they had never had the smoked marathon, and they picked one up, and they're like, "Oh my God, what the hell did you have me drink?"
Oh, it's good. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
but
get
like
what you
like
were saying, that it's very polarizing.
it is
Yeah.
very polarizing. Like I said, I have never met someone who's been like, "Yeah, rock beer, they're okay. I could take them or leave them." It's either, "Yeah, I
Yeah.
love those," or "Yeah, nope."
It's like what is it?
One of my
It's like.
sorry.
Go ahead, Scott.
Well, one of my favorite beers in springtime is a Grodziski, around Easter and Dingus Day. So this is I almost think of them as refreshing. Like smoke beers are super refreshing. This one not so much because it's dark.
Because it's
But
dark. Yes.
yeah, um, yeah, I wouldn't say this is my favorite smoked beer.
What are you drinking, Ryan?
So I am drinking. This is a local brewery, Old First Ward Brewing. Well, let me try to get it in frame there. There we go. And with my lovely New York State Brewers Association glass. So this is Created Remains. Yes, there it is, from Old First Ward Brewing. And this is one of the, if not the best, maybe not. I don't know that
No.
most consistent route beers. And well, first of all, let me put it this way: it's the only one you can find on a normal basis locally.
Yeah.
And as a smoke beer fan, any kind of smoke beer, I gravitate towards. I've always loved smoke beer. I've always found them interesting, and thankfully my palate agrees. But this one is like that classic route beer. It's a little lighter on the smoke and bigger on the body, and it's only 6. It's just about 6%. It's 5.8, and you get that smoke note, but you don't get like that like ham on rye taste, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
If you drink a lot of route beers, so it doesn't taste like a meal, but it's good. It's filling. Let's put it that way.
It's filling. Yeah. Jailfire from Muddy York is available year round. So it's
Nice.
it's one of my go-tos. Like anytime I place an order with Muddy York, there's always at least 6 of the Jailfire in the order. It's because it's nice to be able to reach in, have one, because it is because this one is basically a light lager. Before you take into account the smokiness, it's easy drinking.
Yeah.
It's got, in addition to the smoke flavor, it's got that slightly herbaceous flavor to it. It's got a little bit of dry biscuit and things like that. It's nice. It's got a clean, quick finish on it, so you can drink more of it, and you don't realize you're drinking as much of it as you are.
Yeah, like
Best
Scott
kind of
had,
beers.
yeah, like you were mentioning, Scott. I was just gonna say, you had pointed out about the Grodziskis.
Mhm.
That's kind of how, like, those are generally like what, 4.5%, and
Yep, less than 5.
whenever I can find those, I usually drink the hell out of those, because you don't usually, like you were saying, Rob, you don't usually know or remember how many you drank because they're so
Yeah.
light. So,
Yep.
and those are usually a little lighter on the smoke. That's why I like that style a lot too.
Yeah, they're actually hard to find around here. Scott and I were supposed to do the show on them, like was it
2
October or
years ago, yeah.
September,
That's my
a
fault.
year ago or something like that. And I had a hell of a time finding any. I found one,
And you did.
and
Nice.
then Scott ditched me and didn't show up for
I
the show.
did.
Scott,
That is very much not like me. That I am
no, that
really
is very
sorry
true.
about that.
I sat here drinking alone and crying into my glass because I had been stood up by a
Yep.
guest.
I am so sorry.
I'll have you know, to this date, Scott, you are the only guest who has ever stood me up.
Yep.
That's very dubious.
I don't remember what happened that night, but again, that is That's not my normal MO. I'm normally the one who's there.
I can attest. I can attest to that.
Sure.
Scott is usually the only one that's ever on time. We record a weekly podcast, or we record group podcasts. He's the one that's always on time and having us in. Usually we're the ones that don't show up.
I see. So your bad influence rubbed off on him on that day. That's what it is. I got it.
I can
You
take
hang
blame for
around.
that.
You hang around with some shady people, Scott. I think that's what the
Probably.
problem is.
It was October 28th. Yeah. I don't remember what it was, but it was something. I felt terrible, and I'm so sorry. I'm happy that we could make this work, and with another smoked beer.
Well, I got to bust your balls a little bit.
Yep. Deservedly so. Deservedly so.
So, Scott, you said you're a home brewer as well. You got anything on the
Yes,
go
sir.
right now?
Well, that I can talk about.
Oh,
We have.
wait a second. Top secret or
we'll go.
what?
We'll go. I'll talk afterwards.
Okay.
Double secret probation.
That's
beer?
right. But one of our local breweries, put out a beer kit for their flagship beer.
Oh, nice.
And they're having a contest in March
to see who brews it the best.
To see who can brew it the best, and the winner receives a free year of that beer of Hayburner, and that is currently what I am working on.
Nice. Hey, nothing wrong with free beer.
Yep. Plus, I'll have 5 gallons of this
your
beer
own version of it. Yes.
on tap, which would be great.
Excellent. Brian, are you a brewer at all?
No, it's funny because all of the it's ironic though, because all of the founding members of Buffalo Beer League, I think there's like 3 or 4 of us. They're all homebrewers other than me, which I think is ironic. Scott's a homebrewer. My friend Scott and Jesse are homebrewers. A lot of people I know are homebrewers, but I never got into it. I don't know why.
It's because you got so many friends that do it. You don't need to.
That's right.
That is true. Whenever these guys brew beer and they need to get rid of it, they call me, and that's
right. Yeah. Well, I am also a brewer. I've been brewing on and off for 15 or so years.
Nice.
I was telling Scott before we started recording that I started off using kettles and buckets, and then I moved up to one of those, like a little robo brew, and then I moved up to a different system called a brewery, and then I just went and got stupid, and my wife and I were going to open a brewery. And we had gone down the road far enough where we had incorporated, we had logos, we had space picked out, we had architects already involved, and then we thought better of it, and it was a good idea because we would have literally been opening our brewery like 3 months into the pandemic. So we downsized. We scrapped the idea to start the brewery, downsized the brewing equipment from a 3-barrel system to a 1-barrel. So I've got a commercial 1-barrel system in my garage that I brew on.
Wow.
That's nice.
That's a nice humble brag.
Yeah. Hey, I'm proud of this system. It took me forever to get it. It's custom made. It was pretty cool. I actually ordered it from a company in China, and you give them the dimensions that you want it to fit in and the specifications of how big of a system you want it to be, 1-barrel, 2-barrel, whatever, and they custom design it to fit. So my specifications were it had to be just under 3 feet wide, so I could roll it through the space in my garage to get it where I wanted.
Ooh, all right.
And then it couldn't be more than 4 feet deep. So I've got the kettles are all custom built and everything, and it was pretty cool. And it was it was funny because I was going to buy a system from Blickman out of the U.S. and because of the pandemic, none of the distributors here in Canada could get them. And I contacted Blickman directly, and they're like, "Oh yeah, it's going to be a 54-week lead time on a brewing system."
Oh.
So I started looking, at these places in China, and it's like 60-day turnaround.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Brian, if you go to @RobFromInternet on Twitter, on January 11th, he showed a picture of his system.
That I shall do.
Yep.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
It was January 11th @RobFromInternet.
Yeah, Rob from Internet. That's right.
Right? There's the promotion for people listening.
That's right. So I currently have a beer that's fermenting called FAFO, which, we all know that stands for fuck around and find out.
All right.
Yes.
So it's made up of all the leftover ingredients I had that I wanted to use up. So
nice.
It's got some Pilsner malt, it's got some Carapils, it's got some Crystal 40, It's got some Saaz hops. It's got some Pearl hops. It's got some Tettinger hops. It's got some Burton ale yeast, and it's got some English ale yeast. So it's going to be very much in the vein of like an English style mild,
Yeah.
but it's going to have a little bit of pepperiness to it from the Saaz hops and everything. But yeah, that's what I've got going on right now. I was like,
Nice.
I
And
don't
with the
want this-
crystal malt too, it'll have some color to it.
Yeah, and I was just checking on it just before we started, and it has hit the 5% mark as of
All right.
today. So
Nice.
yeah, and I was aiming for 5 to 5.5% because I was like, I don't know, we'll see how this turns out.
Mhm.
And I think it's just about done. I think it's just about hit the stabilization point, but I think it's going to be right around 5.02, something like that percent. So it's going to be a
Beautiful.
nice light beer that I can drink way too much of and have on tap in my garage.
Especially if you're making 30 gallons at a time.
Luckily I only had enough ingredients to do a half barrel, so it's only 15 gallons.
Only 15 gallons. What are we even doing at that point?
It's fitting that you would mention a mild on a podcast where we're talking about Rauchbiers. Another one of my favorite styles that is increasingly hard to find. Like,
yeah.
I am in love with milds. I love the flavor profile. I love the lower ABV. But for whatever reason, I don't know. Not a lot of breweries will brew them.
There is one that Indie Ale House out of Toronto brews.
Yes, love that
called
place.
St. Crispin's mild that I actually have right now, which is fantastic. It's and I think they still have it. I think you can still get it from them. It's nice. It is a classic 2 style mild, and I think it's $4 a can Canadian. So you're talking like $2.75, $3 American. So pop yourself over the border, stop at the Indie Ale House, grab a few, then stop at Muddy York and grab a few Jail Fires and call it a day.
Yep.
Where in you said Muddy York is in Toronto, or?
Yeah, Muddy York is in I think they're actually in Toronto proper.
Okay.
Here, let me take a look.
Because I was just curious as to why I never heard of them. We've spent a lot of time up there drinking.
Well, obviously not enough.
Yeah, right.
Let's see. They're on Cranfield Road in Toronto.
Nice.
Yeah, I actually I discovered Muddy York completely by accident. My wife and I went to see there's a theater just down the street from this little bar that we went to. We went to see Cats when it was playing in Toronto, and after we were like, oh, we should stop and get a beer or something, and we found this little bar that was literally like 2 stops away, and they had like 5 or 6 Muddy York beers on tap or something like that, or this was around Christmas time, so they had one called Krampus on tap, which is a dark cherry sour. It's since been renamed. I don't remember what the name is, but it's available year round now. But it was absolutely fantastic, and that's where I actually discovered the Rauchbier as well. And I was like, these guys make really good beer.
I got corrected on the Rauchbier last night on when I was talking to Brian Kirschmeyer from Old First Ward, because I had been saying Rauch.
Yeah, it's Rauch.
Yes,
yeah,
and he corrected me. He goes, I just got back from Germany and I got corrected on it many times. So
yeah, see, I grew up with a grandmother who emigrated to the States from Germany in the 40s, so I know how to say Rauchbier.
Nice.
Right? Yep, that's one of those things where when you're doing, for example, an audio version of the BJCP study guides, that's important to know, and I probably messed that up.
I was going to say, Scott, isn't that something that you do?
That was something that I did for the 2015 version, but then they changed it to the 2021. And if I ever get around to doing the 2021 version, I will make sure to say Rauchbier.
There you go.
Still won't know how to say Schlenkerle.
Schlenkerle? I'm not sure.
Schlenkerle? Here, there's a better.
Yeah,
it's backwards, isn't it?
No,
Schlenkerle.
I can say it.
It's just backwards for me.
It's just backwards for you. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to open up some of the cremated remains and see how this is going.
There you go.
You should. It is drinking wonderfully right now.
Excellent.
Also, if you ever get back to doing the audio version of the BJCP, remember it's The proper pronunciation is Märzen, not Marzen.
Märzen.
Then I
did
have
get that
definitely
one
been
right.
pronouncing that wrong. I've been
Yes.
pronouncing that one wrong.
Yes, Märzen. So
Okay, what about Maybach?
it's Maybach.
That's what I've always said. And then there are people who are like Maybach. Like, no,
No.
That's true. I've
Well,
heard that.
I mean,
comes out in May,
yeah, because Mai in German means May.
right?
So it's Maybach.
It's Maybach.
Yeah.
Like, keep your hands off Maybach. Look
That's
at that. Look at that. Oh,
That is a lovely pour. Oh man, way to show
That's
it
a-
off. Yeah, show
that's
it
a
to the people.
beautiful beer. Look at that.
That is. See, now
That's a lovely pour.
that is a classic look for a rock beer. That is
Yeah.
the proper color, the proper clarity. It's got a nice amount of head on there. It's the right color.
Oh yeah,
So,
I like that a lot better than the Schlenkerle.
you're not
It's a much milder.
You're not drinking liquid campfire.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's a much milder.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing with those. I mean, especially that brand, man. You know, you really got to love the smoke to drink
Yeah.
those on a regular basis.
Yeah, once in a while. I don't know if I could drink it on a regular basis. I mean, maybe once or twice during a session, but I don't know how often I could drink these. I mean, I love the
Yeah.
style and all.
Yeah. When I went to Old First Ward last night to pick up the Crowlers, I did not want to drink this last night because I'm like, well, why would I do that? I'm doing that tonight. So I got their Keller beer
Oh yeah.
last night, which was phenomenal,
That's a
Yeah.
good
and
beer.
served in a traditional glass, which I wish I had a traditional German pub glass here tonight, but I don't.
Technically, rock beer should be served in a fluted style glass like this, or
Yeah,
in
that's-
or in a nonic pint style glass, depending on what the base beer is that the thing is based off. So, like this one here is fine in this style glass, but if I was having like the smoked Märzen, I would have it in either a nonic pint, or I would have it in like a fest beer.
Yeah.
mug.
Yeah.
So
Deep in the woods on that one. Sorry. But I also got some wings. I got the Sheffield style wings, which are kind of like a rotisserie style dry rub.
Can't go wrong with that.
gotcha.
Some of the best wings in Western New York, the Sheffield
Yeah.
style.
They were
Yeah.
great. They were great. Although I got a 10. There was one drum, 9 flats. I don't know how you feel about
Interesting.
drums and flats. One drum, 9 flats.
I'm more about the drummies than I am the flats.
Mhm.
I don't mind the flats, but you know, I like the little mini drumsticks, man. It makes me feel like a giant.
Yeah.
The
So-
other one you got to like break it apart, and you got to work at it.
Yeah.
Rob, blue cheese or ranch?
Neither.
Okay, now that's a solid choice. It's a solid. It's an acceptable answer.
That's a safe answer.
I like the wings as they are.
That's how Rob, I'm
Right.
the same way. And I live in Buffalo and I'm the same way.
You know, I love a good hot wing. I have friends that swear by having hot wings and dipping in either blue cheese or ranch, and I'm like, you're defeating the purpose of having a hot wing.
Only half of them are right.
Yes,
Is what it is.
and what is your take on this, Scott?
It's blue cheese. It's blue cheese or nothing. Nothing is
Agreed.
fine.
Yeah, if I'm gonna have anything, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, okay. I mean, if you were to force me to have one or the other, I would go blue cheese as well, because there's nothing wrong with a good stinky cheese.
Yeah.
I'm actually more fond of blue cheese's less potent cousin. Gorgonzola is my favorite, and a nice melted gorgonzola it would be, or a gorgonzola based sauce would be decent as well, because it wouldn't be quite as strong as the blue, but it still has that same flavor profile.
Willing to try it. What I
Right.
did just now is I threw a buffalo grenade at you. At you. If you would have answered wrong, it would have exploded Buffalo Twitter. Is what would have happened.
I see what you're deliberately trying to lead me astray. I understand.
I did, but nope. You answered correctly. You did well. It's
no.
this.
And I love traditional buffalo wings. The old school, hot sauce and butter that you
Yep.
with the deep fried chicken wing. No breading. I'm a no breading chicken wing kind of
Yeah.
guy. I will eat the breaded ones if they're put in front of me, but my preference is to have the nice crispy deep fried skin on there. But yeah, one of my favorites is actually there's a place back in Illinois where I used to live that did a spicy garlic teriyaki wing, and it was absolutely fantastic. So
Sounds good.
it was a deep fried wing, and then they had this spicy garlic teriyaki glaze. Basically, they were super sticky. You had to have like a half a dozen wet naps after you got done just to get it off your fingers, so you could go and use the washroom faucets just to get it off your face.
Yep.
But it was fantastic.
Nice.
I did. I went to there's a shitty chain restaurant called Buffalo Wild Wings.
Oh, yes, there is.
Of course.
And they had one of those in our town, and I went there with a bunch of friends because they had their ghost pepper wing thing.
Mm.
So there was 9 of us that went, and we all ordered the ghost pepper wings. And of the 9 of us, I'm the only one that finished an entire order.
Nice.
and then I ate some of the wings from one of the other guys.
Nice.
And they're like, "How in the hell can you eat these? They're so hot." I'm like, "Well, after the first 6, you don't taste anything." So
Yeah.
It's a good point.
yeah,
Then you bring out the blue cheese and you power through. You make it through.
yeah, you just have more beer.
Mhm.
So, but yeah,
For sure.
excellent. So the beer that you're working on for your contest here, is
Yeah.
that the only one you've got going right now, or do you have anything else?
There's also a wine
Ooh,
that we have going
Oh.
in the basement right now.
Well, aren't we fancy?
Everything else is bottled or kegged at the moment. So the only
Nice.
fermenter I have going at the moment is wine, except for the super secret one that I'll tell you about later.
When we're not recording.
That's right. So it
Wow.
smells great in the basement.
Yeah.
Like, are you brewing a beer for the government or something? I mean,
Yes.
what can you not talk about here?
Yes, I can't give you my exact coordinates. Can't give you the
That's right.
specific gravity or anything of this. So yeah, in like if you come to my house, I'm sure it's the same at your house. In bottles right now, I've got Flanders Reds. I have some pumpkin ales left over still. I've got a hard seltzer that we made over here. We've got an IPA that's a little bit too old at the moment. We still have Brian. I've been talking about this one for like a year, and it's the keg that will not kick. A thin mint stout.
Oh, I knew you were going to say that.
Because we have
I
a
was gonna
stout
ask
tap
about that.
at the
I
house.
was going to ask
and
about that beer.
every time I go to it, like it has to be done now. It has to, and I get a full glass out of it. Like I don't know how this one still exists.
You're just
It's
not
a
drinking enough.
thin
of it.
mint stout, right? I have one. Like I guess, yeah, I have one about once a week. So to make it a year on a 5-gallon keg makes sense.
Yeah, I mean,
And,
okay,
yeah.
if you're drinking, how shoot, I used to know how many pints you could get out of a 6 still, but
Typically, I'll get about 48 out of it.
yeah,
But I roll up with my red Solo cup and take maybe half of it.
red Solo cup
Yes,
Nice.
I do.
fills you up.
Yep.
Let's have
And you
a
don't-
party.
You don't get to see the cascading bubbles in a red Solo cup. You just have to wait and assume.
Yeah, you just have to wait and assume. That is correct. We actually have red Solo cups out in my brewing space as well. I have 3 taps. I have a 12-foot long commercial cooler, 4 doors, 2 doors for kegs,
Nice.
2 doors for bottles and
Wow.
cans. Yeah. Oh no, we did a big renovation on our house, and we put a garage on because there was no garage when we bought this place, and we purpose built the garage. The garage is 50 feet deep with 15-foot
Oof.
ceilings, and it's
Nice.
2.5 cars wide. So we park our cars in the front third. My wife does all her gardening stuff in the middle, and the entire back third is my brewing space.
Third, that's awesome.
That's awesome.
So I've got all my fermenters back there, my glycol chiller, the big brewing system, the big cooler. I've got a sink and just all sorts of stuff. I mean, it's a proper setup back there.
Mhm.
if it wasn't such a pain in the fucking ass to get a license to brew beer in Ontario, or should I say, to get the 5 licenses you need to brew and distribute
Huh.
beer in Ontario,
Oh,
yeah,
jeez.
I would definitely, I could definitely run a business out of my house.
That's awesome.
I was gonna
So the
say,
kegs you're filling. Oh, sorry.
do you necessarily need a tap room? Could you just brew beer and like can and sell at retail?
You still need to have the same licenses.
Ah, okay.
Hmm. So you're filling. Are you filling like Sankey kegs?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I have a
Ooh.
combination. I have some Sankey kegs and I have a bunch of cornies.
Mhm.
So and my setup, the way I've got my setup, I can easily switch between the two. So for Sankeys, rather than just having the standard barb on it, I've actually got a threaded barb set up,
Mhm.
so I can unscrew that and I can put the ball lock valves, the
Oh,
ball
that's a good
lock
idea.
things. Yeah, so it's less than a minute to switch between a corny and a Sankey keg on my system, so I can take either. And the amount of space I have in the cooler, I could have I think I could have 3 half barrel kegs and three 6-tells in there at the same time. So
Right? Yeah. When you're brewing a barrel or even a half barrel at a time, to fill that into corny kegs, you'd have to have a bunch of corny kegs.
yeah, yeah. Well, I've got what have I got? 6 corny kegs, and then I've got a couple.
Like, well, there's your one barrel.
Yeah, then I've got a couple 30-liter Sankey kegs. So
All right. Yeah.
typically what I do is I fill the 30 liters up, and then anything that's left over goes into any of the cornies. So
That's a good idea.
What do you Rob, did you say what you have on tap right now in your garage?
well, on tap right now in my garage are beers that are not mine. I've got Equilibrium, which is an ESB
Oh,
from Nickelbrook in Burlington, Ontario. I've got Oktoberfest from Clifford Brewing in Hamilton, Ontario. I guess I take that back. One of the beers on tap is mine.
Mhm.
It's Rob's Fail Ale. It was the first brew I did on the new system, and I hadn't quite gotten the sizing going from the smaller system up to the 1 barrel system. I hadn't gotten the hop ratio quite right. So it's a very sweet beer. It is not hoppy at all, and it's just sitting on tap, just helping to keep the cooler at an even temperature right now.
All right.
So.
Yeah, that sounds great.
I like Nickelbrook. We stopped there a couple years ago. I like that place a lot. They make
Yeah.
their Funk series is really good.
Yep.
Or their Funk Lab series or Funk, I forget what it's
The
actually
Funk
called, but
Lab, yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
no,
Look it up.
so they actually recently moved the Funk Lab that is no more.
Oh,
Hmm.
They have moved about what is it about? It's about 3 or so miles away from where they were. Um, bigger space. It's a nicer space. They're still brewing the Funk Lab stuff there, but the original Funk Lab is no more.
okay.
It is. I don't know if they're selling the building or what they're doing, because I know there's a bunch of condos and stuff going up in the area where they were, so they might have gotten like a decent offer to sell the building, and they already owned this other building, so they just renovated it. And the tap room is like twice the size of the one that they had over at the original location on Drury Lane
Wow.
there. Yeah, and they did a fantastic job because it's got the same feel to it. They've got all the same style
Oh,
of
okay.
decor and everything. So it's just like, hey, we took the old tap room, we put it in here, and just kind of expanded it. It's nice, and they do make fantastic beers. They have their Uber series, which is always fun. So they've got that's their Berliner Weiss. Um,
Yeah.
Nice.
Series. So they do, like, they have their typical one, which is a raspberry, but then they always have variations on it. And then they have they had a series they did a couple of years back called the Uncertainty Principle, which was just a series of funky sours that they did. And they did, I think there was 8 of them that they did, 8 different variations on it, which was really cool.
Nice.
So I don't know if
Oh,
either of you guys are into sours or not, but
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Very much so.
Right. I'm into everything.
yeah. The only thing I am not into are the hazies and the West Coasts, because
Oh, really?
Really?
hazy IPAs are for people who don't like IPAs, and West Coast IPAs are for people who've just been jilted by lovers way too many times, and they just have to have all that extra bitterness.
So what kind of IPA is your favorite?
Standard traditional English IPA.
English IPAs. You don't see too many English IPAs.
See now, Rob, you strike me as an English IPA kind of guy.
Yeah,
Ooh,
I love.
those are
I had
fighting
you
that.
pegged for
words.
that.
I love the heavy malt backbone with
Yeah.
where you get that sweet hit, and then you get that bitter bite, and then you get a little bit more sweet, and then just as you're finished, it's like, haha, here's the bitter again. Yeah.
Yeah, back how IPAs used to be.
Yeah. I've always said that New England IPAs are not IPAs, and West Coast IPAs are just too damn bitter. And I am so glad that the hop wars are over for IPAs. Do you guys remember the hop wars where?
Oh yeah.
How many IBUs can we say this beer has? It got to a point to where what are you basically doing? You're fermenting pureed hops. Okay, so
Yeah.
I hated that, and that really turned me off of IPAs for quite a long time. And it's only been in the last, I don't know, probably the last 5 or so years where I've been able to find traditional English IPAs again. Last year, May 2-4 weekend here, which is it's a statutory holiday the week before Memorial Day for you guys. So in May, we were up in Bancroft, Ontario, which is about 4 hours from here, and there's a little brewery up there, Bancroft Brewing, and they had one that was a traditional English IPA, and it was absolutely fantastic. And I ended up bringing like a 12-pack home with me because it was so good.
All right.
We're lucky because we have Flying Bison Brewing Company here in Buffalo, and they've been they've been here since the beginning, since craft beer became a thing. So, and they brew typical like German style ales and lagers, and you can always find like a mild or a ESB or like an English pale ale. They'll always have that on tap, it's really nice to have that in your back pocket. Like if you want something classic, you can go there. I mean, they brew modern styles too, but they specialize in old world beer styles, which is great to have.
Yep. It's funny. Normally when people ask me, so what's your favorite style of beer? And I'll ask you guys that when I'm done doing this little bit here.
Oh boy.
I always say porters and stouts, barrel aged porters and stouts, especially. Well, typically anything barrel aged, because double digit beers are my wheelhouse. I consider anything under a 9% beer a session beer. But lately I have been leaning hard into going back into the old school, the ESBs, the best bitters, the milds, things like that. This year we really hit the fest beers and the Märzen so hard. It was, like I bought 2 30-liter kegs of Oktoberfest from Clifford Brewing because I was just that into it this year. So that's what it's that's a half barrel basically.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And there's just me and my wife here in the house. So to go through that much Oktoberfest, technically I'm not through it yet. I've still got, there's probably a gallon left in that one. But I think it's reached the point to where it's not drinkable anymore. It's, it's just, it's past its prime. It's drinkable, but you don't want to drink it because it's over the hill. But typically, I'm the guy that it can be 95 degrees out in July, and I'll be sitting there with a 14%, imperial stout, and people are like, "How can you drink that?" I wanted to drink.
And then lawnmower.
Scott, so what's your favorite style of beer? If someone put a gun to your head and said you have to choose one style of beer, what's your favorite?
Like if I had to go one style of beer for the rest of my life. All right, so Buffalo has a specific type of IPA, which is similar to a West Coast style, but it's not as bitter. And that's probably it. It's an IPA. Not a super bitter IPA. I fell in love with Flower Power years and years ago.
Damn hippies.
And right, and then and then 42 North, one of our local breweries has a Borderland IPA, which has been my favorite beer for the past probably 6 or 7 years. So yeah, I feel so basic. I feel like I feel
Are
so
you the,
basic saying an IPA.
are you the pumpkin spice and Uggs of the beer
I
world?
am
Is
a
that
pumpkin spice and Uggs. I am a white male with a beard, and I'm telling you, it's an IPA. I feel so terrible about this.
There's nothing to feel terrible. If that's what your favorite
You know,
style is, that's what your favorite style is, man.
right below it though is Pilsner. I mean, I like everything. But yeah, it's an IPA.
Yeah, hey, no shame in that. Like I
Yep,
said,
little shame.
nah,
Little.
there's no shame. I mean,
Nah, no shame.
as long as you're not going, well, I love this new East Coast slushy northeastern
I probably
IPA.
like that too.
But I'm like that's no longer a beer, that's a dessert.
Probably like it. There's very few beers I've found in my travels that I really disliked.
You
Can't
obviously
think
have
of any
not
right
traveled
now.
enough.
I can't. See, maybe.
What about you, Brian? If push came to shove and they're like, what is your favorite style of beer?
Well, I was just having this conversation with a friend of mine earlier today that
I find it hard to believe that you have more than one friend.
it would like I was just saying that I drank way too much hazy IPA, but that's not my favorite. I was just pointing that out. I would venture into the lager category, like Scott had said. I would probably say Pilsner or a Helles.
Ooh, good choice.
But I would say it would have to be something in the lager family of things.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. I mean, that is a nice big lane to say. Well,
Right.
Lagers, yeah, lagers. Because
I like beers and lagers.
That's right. we have both types of music here, country and western.
Yes,
but specifically within the lager family, if I had to pick one, it would probably be Pilsners.
Yeah. Okay, nothing wrong with that. Yeah, there's not. You see, I love a good pilsner. I'm more of a fan of the Czech style pilsners than I am, say, the Italian or the traditional the other traditional pilsners. I love just that little bit of spiciness that the Czech pilsners have in them, gives them just that little bit of an edge for me. But yeah, they're also fantastic. If we start talking about other styles of beer, one of my other favorite styles of beer. So I've got a few favorite styles of beer.
Yeah,
that's cheating.
No. Imperial stouts and things like that would be the one I would choose if I had to choose one style of beer. But barley wines,
of course,
and ice box. If you've never had an ice box,
wow, those are hard to find.
They are. There's a brewery in Ottawa called, I'm going to butcher their name. I believe it's pronounced Kishipi. It's an indigenous owned brewery, and every 5 years they put out an ice box. It's only every 5 years. Wow. And I happened to come across it. It's been 2 years now. I happened to come across it, and I ordered like 6 bottles of it, and I pressed the thing to order it, and then I realized I put in my address and everything, and I realized afterwards that they said they only deliver locally. So then I sent him an email and said, listen, I don't care what it costs. I'll pay the shipping costs. So they boxed it up and they shipped it to me.
Nice.
One of them got broken in shipping, and I was like, it sucks. One of them got broken, but that's okay. They were so kind. They one of the people that works for them has family in the area where I live, and they happen to be coming to visit.
Wow.
So they dropped one off for me.
That's amazing. Just one here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the guy was on a motorcycle, so.
Where was he holding it?
What's the ABV on that ice box, Rob?
I think it was around 13%.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There's we have a local brewery, 12 Gates Brewing Company. They're in Williamsville, which is north of Buffalo. They brew every once in a while. They brew an ice box. It's 19%.
Yeah.
Ooh, nice.
It's delicious.
I love a good ice box, but yeah, they are hard to find. It's funny, like we hit the Niagara region where all the vineyards are, And my wife really likes wine. I'm okay with wine. I'll
Yeah,
drink
Yeah.
it. It's not my favorite thing.
same.
But you put a little bottle of that ice wine down in front of me, and it's gone. You ever had the ice wines? So they're like
Yeah.
super
Yes.
concentrated little bottles. They're super sweet and they're higher in the alcohol. Yeah, I'll just drink one of those like it's nobody's business.
Sir.
My wife is a huge. My wife doesn't drink beer. She's a huge wine fan. She loves bourbon. But for me, if I drink wine, it's usually port. I'm usually
Yeah.
a big port fan.
What about Madeira? Do you like Madeiras?
I've had them. I can't say enough about them to say that they would venture into my favorite category.
Gotcha. No, that's fair. That's fair.
I don't know what those
Awesome.
are. I'm going to Google.
Yeah.
But while we're go ahead, Rob. I'm sorry.
No. Go ahead. You go.
Madeira
No, I
wine.
was just going to point out, like you were saying other beer styles. I was going to say when I was talking about lagers that if I had to pick like a niche, air quotes, niche beer style, red wine barrel aged anything, I'm in.
Nice.
Whatever the beer style is, I'm in love with wine barrel aged beer.
Red
Yeah.
wine barrel aged cremated remains.
That would be unbelievable.
There you
Yeah,
go.
all
A
right.
smoky red wine barrel aged
Smoky
beer.
red wine.
Yeah. Nickelbrook used to actually, up until just this past year, they used to do one called Whiny Bastard, which was their imperial stout aged in Pinot
awesome.
barrels.
I've had that beer.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think the sales just weren't there anymore, and they've discontinued it. So
That's unfortunate.
I happen to have 6 bottles in the cooler.
Hey, now. So that leads
We're
me to
gonna
a good
make a
question.
trip.
So Rob, like you, so a guy like you, a big beer drinker,
Yes.
what are we talking about in terms of? Do you have a beer cellar?
Sort of.
Okay.
I'm in my cellar right now where my recording space is,
Nice.
and I do have an area where I do tend to store stuff. But most of the time I actually just reserve a shelf in my cooler, and I put all my stuff in there, and I shove the stuff that the do not touch for 1 year stuff all the way in the back, and I keep it I keep it cold, and it's in the cooler.
Okay.
And I was doing a show last night. I was telling the guy last year for Christmas I did. It was Kentucky Bastard from Nickelbrook. I did a vertical flight 2015,
Ooh.
2016, 2017, 2018, 2019. Every one of those beers comes in at least 11%.
Man, that sounds good.
It was just me and all those bottles.
That is outstanding. That's so great.
That was
Oh,
the
man.
best Christmas ever.
A man after my own heart. That is tremendous.
Yeah. No. And I'm a big fan of aging beers, like barrel aged beers and things like that. So I will buy, like say half a case of a barrel aged imperial stout. I'll drink 6 of them whenever I feel like it, and I'll put the other 6 on the shelf and say do not touch for at least 1 year, and then we go back and we visit how they are. And there's a beer from the Lake of the Woods Brewing Company up there in Kenora. They do one called Deep Six. So it's a different style of beer every year, but they bottle it and then they drop it to the bottom of the Lake of the Woods for 6 months and let it bottle condition at 20 degrees Fahrenheit for 6 months under the water. And it, like, when the lake freezes, that beer is still down at the bottom of the lake just waiting. And they pull it up, and then it's kind of gimmicky, but it's cool. The first year I had it, it was an imperial stout that they had done. The second year was it was a Belgian. I think it was a quad, and I don't remember what this year's one is. But I'm waiting for it to come out of the lake.
Come out of the lake.
Man, that's like that is one of the wildest things I've ever heard. It's like it's Jason Voorhees at the bottle of Camp Crystal Lake or something.
That's right.
That's insane.
Except it's like 500, 750 milliliter bottles of beer sitting at the bottom of the lake, just waiting to come up and make you drunk.
That is great. I love that so much.
I was thinking of King Arthur, the Lady of the Lake.
The more of a refined reference than me.
That's right. Pinky
water
out
retards
reference.
handing swords is not a basis of government.
That movie still stands up so well.
It really does. We were just talking about it the other day. It's just one of those movies that comes up consistently. All right, fellas,
Yep.
we have been rambling on and being stupid for 54 minutes.
It's
So
what we
All
do
right.
best.
This
It's
is
what
the
we
part-
do
We're
best.
so good at it.
That's
You
right.
should check out the podcast and
Yeah.
listen to us ramble on.
This is the part of the show where I go, hey, this is the end of the show. So, Scott, if people are looking to get a hold of you on the socials, where can they find you?
Well, I'm on Twitter at WNY Brews. And the podcast you can find at buffalobeerleague.com and /podcast, I think. And that's really it. Yeah,
That's good enough.
I have a TikTok and I have a
You're on there
what else
doing
do I
that
have?
floss
I have
dance,
an
aren't you?
Instagram. I have a TikTok. But yeah, find me on Twitter as long as Twitter is still a thing.
That's right. Until it
Find me on
implodes.
Twitter.
That's right.
Yep.
Until it
Wait a
implodes.
second, Scott. We are friends. We
We're-
are friends. I did not.
Yeah.
You have a TikTok? I did not know this.
I do. We'll talk about this afterwards too.
All right,
There's stories.
Brian. If people want to find you out there on the old inner tubes, where can they find you?
So all of my writing and all of my ramblings you can find at www.buffalobeerleague.com, facebook.com/the Buffalo Beer League. I'm also on Twitter at buff of space, character Buff Beer League, not Buffalo Beer League, but I'm
Buff
yeah,
Beer
okay.
League.
That's not what that means, but and I'm also on Instagram at Buffalo Beer League. But basically buffalobeerleague.com will lead you to all those other avenues.
To
Well,
Brian
yeah.
and Scott.
Yeah,
Yes.
all right. And your podcast is available wherever people want to get their podcasts, I assume?
Wherever people find their podcasts.
That's
Except
right.
YouTube.
Except YouTube. See,
We-
my show is on YouTube, but it is also a podcast that could be found wherever you find podcasts.
Nice.
But know this, if you go looking for the podcast, it is always at least 3 or 4 episodes behind the YouTube show.
that makes
so-
sense.
Yeah, and actually, I think right now I published like everything up until this year all at once, and then I've been releasing them weekly after that. So at some point, it'll only be like a week behind, but right now, I think it's still 3 or 4 weeks behind the YouTube channel. So
This will be so. This will be an interesting experiment because you said this is a video podcast.
Correct.
It's a video podcast, but I look like I just crawled out of a gutter. Like you said, I work from home. My wife and I work from home. I never leave the house, and this is what you get. I mean, I'm not camera ready.
hey, there's no dress code. I mean, you could have showed up wearing the fuzzy bunny slippers like Scott Knight in Real Genius with your bathrobe open or whatever, or showed up
Gotta
like
see.
the dude,
There you go.
See?
Oh, look at this. Look
See?
at this.
There's no dress code. I mean,
Wearing my Buffalo Bills pants. Let's go.
Tremendous.
for
That's
all you guys know, I'm Winnie the Pooh in this shit, and there's no pants
That
on
is-
down here.
That is very true.
Excellent, guys. All right, this has been another fantastic episode of Rob from the Internet Talks About Beer. And until next time, I'm Rob. Cheers.
Cheers.
My glass is empty, but cheers.
Oh, that's
Yeah, I know it's a
Don't
very
do it.
sad sight.
Don't do it.
bad form. Bad form.